If you're building in Web3 because you think that it is going to be the future, I have some bad news for you and a word of warning. Web3 as an industry is unfair. You see, it's oftentimes not the best product or the most ethical teams that end up winning. Which is why in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the raw, honest truth of being a builder and a founder in Web3. The types of things that no one would dare to tell you out loud. Why your reputation might actually be the bottleneck for your project actually gaining traction. To the people you call community are oftentimes going to be the first to turn around and be the first to fudge you when things go wrong. I'm Leon Aboud, founder and CEO of Unfungible. And over the last couple of years, my team and I have had the opportunity to work with some of Web3's top products, many of whom you might be a user or customer of, including Brave Browser, Karate Combat, Magic Eden on BTC, Forbes Web3, Abstract Chain, and many others. And the reason I make these videos is I want to give founders that are building real products and that are well-intentioned the fighting chance that they deserve and not fall victims to some circumstances that could have been absolutely preventable. In Web3, one mistake will cost you your whole career. We've seen it. The most well-intentioned founders getting misunderstood, losing their reputation, and boom, no recovery. Their only option is just to go back and leave as if they never even existed. And I don't want this for you. You deserve the fighting chance for your product to speak for itself and you to drive the marketing that it needs for it to shine. And talking about reputation, which brings us to our very first truth. Your reputation, or more importantly, the lack of it, might be the reason why your project is stalled. I was recently speaking with this founder who is building a really cool project. He has built his brand in the space for the last couple of years. Nothing too crazy, but he's been active. It's not like he's new to the space and he just came out of nowhere. He's been around, people know him, some people have seen him, and he's been trying to get his project to gain traction. One day, one of my team members hopped on a call with this founder. And that founder was part of our beta incubator program where we would bring founders in that had a real product and real potential, and we would help them clear their bottlenecks when it came to marketing. And over a call one day, one of my teammates pointed out the very raw and honest truth to this founder. He was saying how none of the big influencers, none of the people that really move markets, the types of people that have the strong, wealthy community members, none of them would return any of his messages, the founder's messages. And one of my guys at Unfungible looks at the founder and tells him the very direct truth, like a knife cutting through butter. He tells him, it's because you haven't commanded the respect for these people to all of a sudden pay attention to you. And when he said that, I saw the founder's face and it seems like something clicked. It was like, yeah, that is the reason. I have yet to earn the reason why people have not been returning my DMs is because they don't respect me yet. Some might not even know I exist. Those who do, I haven't given them a strong enough reason to respect me. And even though that founder had like a community, they were starting to build something big, there was a movement happening behind him. The age-old adage is that respect isn't given, it is earned. And these big thought leaders, the types of people that can really move market, change sentiment, the people who have a voice, before even paying attention to you, before even considering if you are going to be useful to them or not, they're gonna think, do I respect this founder? Did this person do enough in this space for me to respect and want to associate myself with them? And if the answer is yes, you're gonna notice your calls are gonna start getting returned, your messages are gonna start getting returned, people are gonna follow back up with you after they haven't answered you for a couple weeks. So the next question becomes, how do you build respect? And that's where the first thing comes in, which is social currency. Having big numbers on your socials, or big enough numbers where people see like, okay, this guy has an audience that is real. Because people can tell on Twitter, it's very easy to know when you have a botted audience versus a real audience. Number two, brand association with other big trusted figures. That is why for me, I remember when I was growing my brand, there was a big unlock that happened the moment I started doing podcasts. I remember at first I was having some smaller creators, smaller founders and then grew my way up, and then I had Luca Nets on. And the moment I had Luca Nets, all of a sudden, all these people that perhaps followed me, saw me, they all of a sudden associate Leon with Luca Nets. It's like, okay, these two know each other, they've hung out. The respect that I have for Leon has all of a sudden gone up. And then that led to another big podcast interview with Zagabond. And then Yatsu, chairman of Animoca Brands, one of the most successful people in the space. And it created that effect. That's why a brand association. So you don't need to have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers, but if people see you like, okay, this guy is part of big projects. This guy is like a mover and shaker in the background. He's well connected. That's a second thing. A third thing is to have access to something people want, but also don't have access to. I'll give you an example. One of our clients, Ryui, they recently had an NFT launch, super successful on Abstract. And VQ, the co-founder, gave me a very good story. She was like, during summer of last year, they did all these one-on-one profile pictures for these top influencers. And they sent all of them to these influencers. So they sent all the one-on-one pictures to the influencers. Virtually no one got back to them. But then a couple weeks after, something happened. They started to gain traction. Abstract became very hot. And they pretty much rose to becoming one of the most hyped projects on Abstract. And all of a sudden, all these people that VQ DM'd weeks ago started answering. That's the reason why all of a sudden these creators saw that there was this project and they wanted access to potential whitelists and to all the things that a winning project brings to the community members that are part of it. So your reputation or the lack of it might be a big reason why you are not getting your DMs answered, or the people that are part of your community are not taking action to the level that you want them to. If Luca Nets or Elon Musk tomorrow tells you, go join my Discord and verify your role, if 1 million people see this, this will have a much higher engagement rate. So the number of people that will do what is asked of them will be a lot higher than if a random founder speaks to 1 million people and says the same thing. Why? Because one founder's words carry a lot more weight than another founder's words. So that's where I would start. Identifying how can I grow my brand? How can I associate my brand to other big figures? And how can I build something that is seen as valuable, either scarce, exclusive, in demand, that has social proof, all these things. And this right here brings us to our second raw truth about building in Web3, which is fundamentally in Web3, you are selling to people's greed. This is something I learned from Russell Brunson, big OG guy in the Web2 marketing space. And he said that fundamentally, there are 3 human desires that drive people. The first big one is health. The second one is wealth. And the third one is relationships. Everything people do, everything people buy, every business that is built, every service that is offered fits to solve one of these big 3 core desires that as humans we have. And in Web3, guess which one it is? People are in this industry to make money. So the very first filter that people are going to have as they look at your project and they try to make a decision, is this worth my time? Is this worth my money? Should I be paying attention to this? Is this thing going to make me money? And if the answer, or listen to this, the perceived answer is no, then people are going to look elsewhere. You see, there's a lot of projects that have a lot of depth and a lot of great fundamentals, great products, strong builders. Like I speak to that founder and I'm like, bro, this is a product that should have all the timeline speaking about it. But the problem is they do not command the attention for them to be able to get people to pay attention and notice that. Projects are not communicating all the things that make something wantable or something desirable from the masses. We kind of touched on it on the previous one, so I won't go in detail. And there's a great book that I very often quote, which is Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. What makes people do things? And the things that make people do things, especially in Web3, are what seems scarce. So people want access to things that seem scarce, that seems exclusive, that have social proof, So when people see that all their friends and all the influencers that they follow are all talking about this one project, it becomes more desirable. So scarce, exclusive, social proof, liking. People invest in things that they generally like. So liking, a great case study recently, one of our partners, Good Vibes Club, most successful project launch in the last 12 months on Ethereum for NFTs specifically. A lot of people bought into the project because they generally liked what these guys were building. The art, the founders, who they were behind it. But a big part of why they bought into it is because this showed that it had a potential upside in the future. So liking, social proof, exclusivity, so scarcity. Already I'm gonna write it this way. Liking, scarcity, and then reciprocity. Let's say I bought into this founder's project because I really liked them. There's that built-in human desire to want to reciprocate a favor. So let's say you all of a sudden launch a project and you send that founder a DM, they're a lot more likely to reciprocate the favor that you gave them. That's an example of reciprocity. But fundamentally, these are all things that make your project more desirable. So a lot of what you're going to be doing is just marketing to people's greeds. How can you show people that you have something that will gain in value down the line? Third truth that you need to know is timing matters a lot more than you think. Very successful founder once told me, we worked together. He was like, you know, man, Leon, in Web 2, I've sold companies for tens of millions of dollars. My previous company sold it for, it was like close to 80 or 90 million dollars. And he told me, he was like, in Leon, 95% of Web 2 is just how good your product is and 5% is the market. In Web 3, it's the complete opposite. It's 5% the product and 95% the market. We've seen all these AI agents and AI tokens just do well because they launched during the AI meta. So based on this, the thing about timing is that it's oftentimes not the time until it becomes time. So if you're watching this video, it's most likely not the right time for you to be launching if you want to time the market. Again, some founders are like, I'm just gonna ship and I'm gonna ship in a bad market and then ride when the market goes up. Up to you. Word of advice, you only have one shot at doing this right. And usually you want to capitalize the moment where you have maximum attention on you. And attention will oftentimes come if there's attention on your industry and on your niche. For example, we give the example of Good Vibes Club. These guys, Tyler and Chris, the two founders of Good Vibes Club, have been building their art and have been building their project since 2022. They hadn't launched back then because they hadn't seen the opportunity in the market. So they just waited and kept postponing until all of a sudden an opportunity in the market opened up. Attention was back on NFTs and they launched, becoming the most successful. Literally in the last 12 months, they launched. And you know the best part about their launch? If you are to look at the fear and greed sentiment on CoinMarketCap, how it was like going up, it went up in January and then March, February, and then March it went all the way down. They launched right here. The worst day of sentiment on CoinMarketCap in the last, since this reading has been live, which is over a year and a half, they launched on the worst day. And they still managed to be the #1 launch in the last 12 months. And I might be contradicting myself right here with this point. When they started to market was a good timing. The day of the launch was less important than when they started to gain traction. Because by this day, it didn't really matter what was happening because they already had their community that were already bought in. They did their pre-sale probably around here. I remember they like minted out half the collection during pre-sale when it was around here. So it was still good sentiment, but they were able to capitalize on this run right here that happened. So the big greed January pump, they started heavily marketing during that time and were able to gain the core 1,000 true fans. Gain these people that no matter what would have happened, would have bought because they just have so much conviction in the future of this project and believe that this is going to do well on the long term. So they timed the market, not the day. And that's how I want you to think about it. Timing the market so that you can attract attention and make your marketing efficiency work in your favor, not against you. Harsh truth number 4, which is that community alone is not a business model. And this is one mistake that I've made personally and costed me a lot of time, years of work, and it costed me a lot of money. In 2017, I started building online communities in the engineering and technology space. I studied engineering in Canada, and I remember one day, big, old, dark auditorium in the basement of the university, I was sitting there watching a lecture, and I was like, what if I started turning some of the things I would learn, some of the side projects I was doing, some of the productivity hacks that I was learning back then. I remember going through like a memory course. I was like, what if I took these and started publishing content about that on social media? I started doing just that. That very quickly turned into becoming one of the largest internet communities for engineers in the world. 5,000 followers turned into 10, that turned into 25, that turned into 50, 50 turned into 100, 100, 200, 400, 600,000 followers, and today sits at 1 million. And I found myself at the realm of one of the biggest engineering communities in the world. People in my university, I became kind of a micro celebrity. People would like, yeah, you're the worldwide engineering guy. I was like, yes, that is me. So I had a community. I, at this point, thought I had figured it out. I was like, this is my ticket to retirement. If only 1% of people, 10,000 people buy something from me, I'm good, I'm set. I have a running business that is profitable. So I decided, it was during COVID, people were locked in at home. My logic was, let's create a productivity notebook for people because people are probably very distracted. They'll need a place to put their thoughts down. So I flew to Toronto, ordered a big batch of products because I could only order, the minimum order was like 2,500 units. And a couple weeks after, got the merchandise, and here came launch week. Started doing the launch marketing, 7 days, 6 days, 5 days, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I launch. And then I refresh my Shopify, expecting hundreds of orders, and then I look and there's like 400 people on the website, but no one bought yet. So I was like, let me give this a minute. And then no one bought again. I was like, oh, the website is broken. Let me check this out. So I look at the dashboard. I was like, okay, I didn't get any warning. Okay, so I was like, I pulled out my phone and then I placed an order on the website. So I placed an order myself. And to my nightmare, it went through. So what I ended up realizing in this very moment, that like dawned on me like a train hitting me. I was like, oh, I have a deeper problem than a non-functioning website. I might have a business problem. Like the whole business is the problem right now. The lesson here is that I ended up building a community for the sake of community and trying to find a business model to that, or trying to artificially inject a business model into that community did not work. Probably didn't have the skill sets to do it. If I go back in time, I would probably do things differently. But I started with a community and expected to monetize that. And I've noticed that's how a lot of Web3 projects do things. They launch a token, they launch a meme coin, they launch an NFT collection, they build a community, and then they're like, cool, what are we doing from here? And what I learned is that it's oftentimes very hard when you start with a community to build a business around it. It's feasible, it's possible, a lot of people have done it, but it's a lot easier. And now with my experience, I am doing this in Web3, did it with Unfungible. You start with a business that has recurring revenue, and then you build your community around the business. So your community kind of becomes your brand evangelist. They become the people that breathe and live your company vision, your company culture, why you do things, how you do things. That becomes your community. Think of Solana, for example. People use Solana because it is useful. It is not just a meme coin that is traded for its cultural value. It's useful. People need to buy it, and it's built its own community around this. And I know it's hard to fathom since most launches have just been community. But what I will say is that community is the best utility for your token. But there needs to be a business model. For example, Pudgy Penguins, they were able to do it well. Luca Netz's genius came behind this. They had the community, they had potential, they had the IP. So they were like, let's launch plushies around this. Let's launch a merchandise business around this. Let's merchandise our IP and turn it into a product that people want to buy. So they did this, and the community were the first people that came in, bought the products, supported the launch, sold them out, got them ranking on Walmart, on Amazon, and then the product stood on its own feet. Right now, Pudgy does no longer need the community to survive. The community supports, they are the lifeblood of the business. They give the business a stronger push, but it's not like they need the revenue from the community. The community is not being monetized at all. So community in and of itself is not a business model. Fifth truth that you need to know when building in Web3, that's gonna be a good one. And that is that you can only have one source of truth when it comes to your project. Let's go back to Azuki, fall of 2023, when they launched their Elementals collection. One of the things that happened is that the launch was very misunderstood. People didn't understand what just happened. We just paid 2 Ethereum for an NFT that looks exactly like this original NFT. Like, whoa, what is happening right now? And people were looking for a source of truth. And unfortunately, that source of truth started to come from the X timeline, not from the team, because the team weren't fast enough to react to what was happening and didn't have the infrastructure to do that back then. They didn't have the branding or their culture to be like fully built with the community. So what ended up happening, people were looking for answers. They were looking for like, hey, what the hell is happening? And when they couldn't get it from the team, they all of a sudden got it from the timeline. And the timeline, as you might imagine, anything that comes out of the timeline is oftentimes chaotic. It's vague. It doesn't have all the richness of information that you might need. A lot of it is assumptions, a lot of it is judgmental, and a lot of it is FUD. So that source of truth became the timeline, and this directly created negative sentiment within the holders. It was like quickly spiraled down, and all of a sudden Azuki lost a lot of its brand strength. They eventually recovered, were able to build trust back with their community, and I ended up having Zagabond on a podcast with me exactly 6 months ago. So in September of 2024. During the podcast, one of the questions I asked him is, why was 2024 for you the year where you started taking your brand presence a lot more seriously? Because there was a night and day shift. Zagabond was like the founder that builds in the dark, no one knows what is happening, to all of a sudden, they have a series where they have a videographer documenting the daily life in the office. Night and day difference. And he said, he was like, Azuki is at a stage where it needs me to be more front-facing. I need to start doing a better job at communicating with the community. And the past had a lot of lessons for me. So the lesson here is that the community will always trend to the most credible source of truth. Think about Bybit, for example, when they got hacked recently, largest hack in history. One of the things they did very well is their communication and PR was stellar. They were like every single 15 minutes, there was an update from the team. Everything, every potential like weird transaction that was happening, money was moving around internally at Bybit. People were unsure if they could continue trading. The team was on it. They were the primary source of truth. And by doing that, it all of a sudden prevented all the noise that was happening on the side actually materializing and becoming the source of truth that people look for. So people will always trend to the most credible source of truth in hard moments and in moments of high emotional peaks when there's like big events happening, people are about to buy something from you, big announcement dropping, something unexpected happened to the project, you got hacked, the smart contract is not working. That's where you want to be the number one source of truth. Because if you don't, someone else will, and you don't want to put the truth about your project in someone else's hands. Truth number 6 is you can only have one of 2 types of relationships with influencers. I've seen influencers, so I personally know some of the top influencers in this space, personal friends with them, and I know how much they charge for the posts that they make. I have it on an Excel sheet, I just know. And I've seen them work professionally with brands where they got paid, and then I've seen them work organically with brands. For example, like Good Vibe, going back to Good Vibes Club, that was a great case study. These same influencers that would charge thousands of dollars per post, they were just posting organically about this project for free without even needing, like no one asked them to do it, just because that was what was happening, that was a conversation, it was part of the narrative. So these influencers started posting and talking about it. And the reason why this even happened, and Good Vibes Club, by the way, they spent $0 on marketing. Like not a single dollar. The explanation to it can be explained in this good book right here that I recently started learning, which is called Predictably Irrational. And as part of the book, they say that there are two worlds that we as humans function in. The first world is the social norms world. The second one is the market norms. What does that mean? The social norms world is when you go help your neighbor across the floor, move their couch, you don't really expect a form of payment. It's like, here's $100 bill. And you don't expect your neighbor to come the next day to help you move your couch. That's social norms. It's built on human reciprocity. It's built on kindness, generosity, and just human connections, friendship, pretty much. And then you have market norms. That's where you will pay a moving company to come and help you move your furniture. And you cannot tell that person, but hey, my neighbor was kind of generous enough to help me with my couch. Can you help me with my cupboard? It's like, no, it's like market norm. It's the same thing if you go have dinner at your aunt's place, you can show up with a bouquet of flower or a nice bottle, but you can't at the end of the dinner give them a $100 bill. That's social norms clashing with market norms. So where does this bring us in Web3? Why is that important? In Web3, you can have one of two relationships with influencers. You can either have relationships that are in the market norms, so you pay them for every time you want them to speak about you, and they will do this, or you build friendships and relationships built on reciprocity, where you do not expect them to speak about you, but all of a sudden it becomes appreciated when they do. Good Vibes Club with all of these influencers, they just brought them in. They built one-on-one relationships with these people. They spoke with them on the phone. They're like, hey, by the way, this is what we have. I'd love your opinion on our project. You have a lot of experience. You're like one of the top thought leaders. I'd love your opinion. And just by doing this, without asking, without paying, just having conversations with people, all of a sudden you built that social norms, relationships with that person. So then what ended up happening when it became convenient, it became good, the market was in favor, the project was doing well, all of a sudden it made these people that had these human relationships more likely to speak about these projects. And then one led to the other, the credibility of one allowed the credibility of the other, and then all of a sudden that's how you find yourself having a viral project where everyone is talking about that project. This is the example of social norms. The problem is I see all these founders, big mistake is they try to pay influencers in what would typically be a social norms way of doing business. So they're like, hey, influencer, can you speak about our project 3 times? I'll give you 1 whitelist. It's like you're trying to get social market norm exchange and giving social norm as the present. It doesn't work. You're trying to pay for the restaurant with flowers. It doesn't work like that. So you have to understand which of these two do you want to play in. It's fine if you have the budget and you have a launch where you do not have time to build relationships with people, just go straight to it. Pay people, pay your way in. But I know that 95% of founders are not operating on VC money, do not have an infinite well of money they can tap into for marketing budget, which is where the second path will be the path for you. Want to lean in one of the two, lean all the way in it. So give and don't expect. Give whitelists, make people feel important. Ask them what they need and how you can support them. Literally, by the time you watch this, there's probably going to be a Good Vibes Club case study published on this channel. Go watch that. I speak about the social norm versus market norm and how they used it themselves. Harsh truth number 7, which is that people do not read white paper. Instead, they trade on word of mouth. It's fool's game to put a white paper out and to think that your community all of a sudden has a freaking idea of what you do. Most 95% of people will never read your white paper and will never care enough to. Instead, your job is to make it easy for the people that do to speak about it and to create that word of mouth that fits your brand narrative. So what do I mean by this? You, as part of your marketing launch, communities always look like something like a funnel. At the very top, you have 80% of your community. These are the people that know you exist, they don't really know what you do. Like if someone asks them like, hey, I saw you're part of this or you follow this, like what do they do? It's like, I don't know, they're cool. I like their content, the founder is funny, but I don't know more than this. Then you have right here, 19% of people, they know what you do, but that's the extent of it. So they are familiar, they know the name, but they won't go above and beyond to do much more. They won't be the types of people that if you ask the community who can organize community activation or community call, or just design fan art for us, these won't be the people that will raise their hands for it. And then comes the interesting part, and that is the 1% right here. These are the community members. We call them the brand champions. These are the people that know what you do. They tell their friends about you. They are part of every group call that you make, every community town hall that you make. These guys are part of it. And your goal when you are to launch something like the white paper, when you are ready to divulge more information about your project, you want to make sure that these people really know and understand the content of what you've just put out so that they can divulge it for the rest of the community. These are the people that will make 80% of your word of mouth. And the way you can do this is potentially by having calls with these people. The concept of B2B sales, B2B relationship building is well understood, but why don't we do this in the BTC sense? What if you organized 3 times a week, a 1-hour call with your top community members, and you ran them through the white paper and asked them if they have any questions? Or you created a presentation format for the white paper, and you allowed that 1%, the people that will show up and are here for the ride, you give them a place to understand and ask their follow-up questions. If these guys have vague instructions about your projects, they're gonna give vague instructions back to the rest of the people, or they just won't say anything. So most people will not read white papers, they will trade on word of mouth, making sure that 1% knows what is happening so that it slowly gets divulged into the rest. And man, I've seen what the 1% of some communities look like. Like I'm sure you guys have experienced what a 1% superfan looks like. You want that person in your community, and you want that person to always be by your side no matter what. Truth number 8, you're gonna spend most of your time repeating yourself. You are going to repeat yourself long after you've become bored of your own marketing message. One of the very common concerns that I hear founders that I work with is, Leon, we have nothing to talk about. Our last update was like 2 weeks ago. I don't know what to post about. I'm like, bro, you are sick and tired of your marketing message because you've repeated it so many times. I can guarantee you, most people don't even know what you do. Like most don't. There's this great story of Henry Ford. He was once walking through his daily routine, walking through his manufacturing plant. And one day on his way, he stops by the marketing department who he walks in front every day. And he goes to the marketing manager and he's like, sir, when are we gonna stop running this ad right here? I'm sick and tired of seeing it every day. And the marketing guy tells him, he's like, sir, we haven't even started running this to the public. What this tells us is as founders, we're oftentimes gonna grow tired of our own messaging. Most people don't really know what we do. They need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. Even my videos, a lot of the concepts that I shared, like I've spoken about before in different contexts, in different ways, with different examples. And it takes you, like if you watch each and every one of my videos, first of all, thank you. But second of all, you probably need a couple times of hearing the same message in different ways for it to really click, for you to really understand what is it that I meant. So a large part of what you're gonna need to do is just continue going on the Twitter spaces, continue hopping on the podcast, continue making the videos, continue writing posts about what you do, even after you think that you've repeated it yourself enough. If you've said something 10 times and think it's enough, you probably have another 10 times. So 10x that, 100 times of saying it before the market really grows tired of what you have to say. All right, how are we doing so far? I know we're almost there. Truth number 9 about building in Web3 is that you are oftentimes going to find yourself building for an audience that doesn't yet exist. I was sitting in Singapore with this founder who we've worked with, and what a guy, what a product, what a story. What, like, their goal is to tokenize culture, not just in Web3, Web2. And they've had Web2 partnerships. They own a Banksy art piece. They own some of the most beautiful traditional art pieces. They've done collaborations with top brands. And for them, tokenizing culture, one of the worries that I saw in the founders' eyes, because as founders, we're nowhere where we want to be, even no matter how successful we are, was he told me, he was like, bro, Leon, I think we're ahead of our times. And when he said this, I was like, I think so too, bro. I think you guys are ahead of your time. And we're oftentimes going to build for a lot of the products that we have, especially in Web3, the market isn't ready yet. The demand hasn't caught up to what we have to build. And sometimes the demand might never even come in the first place. Maybe what we are building, we might have convinced ourselves, or we might have had the hypotheses that what we're building will be in demand, only for the hypotheses to get nulled with time and experimentation. It's like someone in the 1980s working on flying cars instead of working on the internet. Who would have thought that we would actually get the internet, not flying cars? And that is just one of the truth. I think there has to be a bet that will need to be placed, and some entrepreneurs will have to. Someone needs to build Amazon. Someone needs to be the first to build Amazon. And he who does will get rewarded greatly for it. But before that, there's going to be a lot of people that will need to go through that process of natural selection. They weren't the right product market. They didn't have the right product market fit before someone does. So the two paths that you have as a founder is either you create the industry, you create the market, or you do what most big companies do, which is you wait until you see something that works, you get into that and do it better than them. That is a reality of the market, one that is very much needed. And that gets me to the very final truth, which is sale price and value are relative. What do I mean by this? A great example, I remember realizing this, it hit me. Nike with Artifact, when Artifact was still around, they had airdropped this box to people. So this NFT, which was like a box, and it was supposed to have some future utility. And because of the scarce nature of this NFT collection, it ended up running, I think it went to like 10,000, 10 Ethereum or 15 Ethereum, something crazy. But that box was airdropped for free. Nike gave something for free to people. And then what this box gave people was the exclusive ability to buy exclusive products from Nike. So they ended up launching a shoe that only people who owned that NFT could buy it. So it wasn't on sale. You could just buy it by owning the NFT. And the timeline flooded. They hated it. They absolutely hated what Nike just did. And when I saw this happening, I was like, wow, because it ran to 15 ETH, some people were expecting 15 ETH worth of value from a product because some people bought it for 15 ETH. Well, now Nike is all the way down here creating this as the only utility is ability to buy something for full price. And I realized the stark difference between price and value that people were expecting. You could give something for free to people, and if your thing becomes worth $100,000 and you make $0 off of that, all of a sudden you are liable to providing $100,000 worth of value to your community. And this brings me to 2 points that I have. The first point is, this was told by me by a very successful founder. I recently had a podcast with them, super successful. They own the big NFT project founder. They also are co-owners of one of the biggest decentralized platform worth $1 billion. And after our podcast, we went to have lunch together, and he was like, Leon, one of the things I recommend every new NFT project founder is give your utility an expiry date. It's like, okay, you buy my NFT, but by this date, the NFT will no longer have utility in the ecosystem. Instead, it becomes a memorabilia. It becomes a cultural play. That is one path. Going the path where you make it clear upfront, there will be a day where the token no longer holds value. The second path is perhaps considering going soul-bound. So when do you need a soul-bound token versus when do you need a tradable token? Perhaps with Nike, airdropping the box would have been a better play for a soulbound token than it being a tradable NFT. Now I understand the value of them wanting to make it such. It's a shame. Artifact, Nike's project, was such a good experiment. It didn't pan out the way they wanted it to, and that's totally fine, but I understand where they were going, and it's unfortunate that it didn't work out for them. Big setback for the space. But all that to say, consider that the value, you could give someone something for free, and then someone else buys it for $10,000. That second person will now expect from you $10,000 worth of value. So how do you protect yourself from that were that to happen? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking in this video. As a quick recap for our raw truth, your lack of reputation is a problem. Money is the primary driver in this industry. A lot of Web3 marketing is marketing to people's greed. Number 3, timing really matters. 4, community alone is not a business model. Number 5, there can only be one source of truth. It's either going to be you as a project or the community. Don't make it the community. Number 6, you can only have one of 2 relationships with influencers. You either go the social norms or the market norms way of building relationships with these people. Number 7, people don't read white paper, they trade on word of mouth. 8, you'll spend 80% of your time repeating yourself. Number 9, there's a high likelihood that you are building for an audience that might not exist yet. And number 10, price and value are relative. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Leon Aboud. If we're not connected on X, let me know. Give me a follow at Leon Aboud _ on X, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you soon.